There are healers on this planet with the power to soften the suffering of mankind, yet they have remained in the recesses of the world, abused, discarded, and labeled as trash. This is The Touch of a Mustang. I am your host, Shalise Clough, and I'm here to tell the story of wild horses, Mustangs, and the humans who are discovering and sharing their gifts while working to protect their well-being and preserve their spirit, so this divine power won't be lost. Join us on this quest with the Wild Mustang. Diane Delano, a lifelong horse enthusiast, found her calling serving America's wild horses, leading to the establishment of the Wild Horse Rescue Center in Florida. WHRC, a nonprofit organization, is committed to the rescue, rehabilitation, and preservation of American Mustangs. They rescue Mustangs from neglectful or abusive situations, providing them with the care they need to heal and thrive. Many horses arrive on the brink of death. They are nursed back to health and given the opportunity to find loving homes. While some Mustangs are successfully tamed, trained, and adopted, others remain wild at heart and live out their days at the center. Their mission also includes education and advocacy, including mentoring for Mustang owners, workshops on care and gentling, educational seminars on Mustang history, and community events featuring Mustangs. Thanks for being here, Diane. So you run Wild Horse Rescue Center out in Florida, and you told me you've been involved with Mustangs a long time. How did your involvement with Mustangs start?
Well, I've been involved about 32, 33 years. And what really started it was back in 1975, and I probably was about 13. And I had a horse at a boarding barn, which was $10 a month to board.
Oh, wow.
Is that crazy? In 19
That would be amazing. That's an amazing deal now.
It is. And it was $4 to get the hoof trims. It was
Oh,
$1 a
wow.
hoof. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
So
how
anyhow,
it's changed.
1975, I had witnessed a Mustang came into the boarding barn for a very short period. It was a tame Mustang. It was a big, beautiful sorrel with a flaxen mane, and it had wavy mane. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I was 13. I fell in love with that idea. And of course, in the schools, 1975, the bill was just passed. You know, people could adopt Mustangs. It was passed 1971. And by 1973, they were adopting horses out. So I always wanted a Mustang. Like I went through school wanting it, and then I had a daughter when I was 18. So when she was in elementary school doing the, what is that? The little paper that they used to get, and it would be like stuff around the world. There was an article in there about Dayton Hyde at the Black Hills, South Dakota. I still have that article. Okay, I kept it was a weekly reader. That's what it was called. So
Okay, yeah.
I fell in love with just wanting to have a Mustang, you know, that whole get it from the wild and gentle it up. So
Yeah.
I did not get my first Mustang until, well, I think it was early. Let's see, my son was born in December of 89. So I'm going to say we probably got the horse in February of 89 was our first official Mustang. And then in 88, my girlfriend got one, and I was there with her getting it, and I wanted one so bad, but I didn't have a place to bring it because, you know, you need the 6 foot high corral.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have a spot for it. So
Right.
I actually had to build a place for it. We were renting a piece of property, but it didn't have anything on it. So we built actually a chain link, 6 foot high, 40-foot round pen with a stall, and then I made a children's play area, 6 foot high with a tack room, so my boys could play there because they were little.
Yeah.
And so I adopted my second Mustang, 6 months pregnant with my third child. And he was born in January of 92. So I got Rio in 91. And with that, I did all the training with Rio. He was a 3-year-old colt from Nevada. He had just been rounded up. He was 6 weeks in the system, and it was great. I'm in a newspaper article like 3 months into having him. You have this pregnant lady running around this horse, running around with her and, you know,
Yeah.
friendly with her. And I'd take him out for walks and everything. And, I taught him to pick up his feet and lead and halter and everything. So it's not a matter of like, you don't have to have fire and smoke training these guys. It's actually
Yeah.
can be in a more gentler fashion. So then I just started getting involved, and I just couldn't stop getting involved. It was like, there's a, I have a sign in my education center that says horses are like potato chips. You can't have one.
Right.
Well, the wild horses are like that. I just fell in love with how you could work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept chasing that dream. And then well, from then until about 2000, I was mentoring. I started end up helping people with their Mustangs. I went to all the adoptions. I talked to people. I met people. I stayed in touch with people. So I was doing a lot of mentoring with just other fellow Mustang people.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2000, I found out about the Wild Horse Workshops, which were held out west. Willis Lamb from Least Resistant Training Concepts and the Bureau of Land Management hosted together a 5-day workshop. So I
Oh,
went to
neat.
my very first one in Golden, Colorado. It was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing. I loved it. So then I went to next year, I went to Utah and I went to Sacramento and I went to Oregon and I went to Kansas. So every year I went to these wild horse workshops and I worked as a uh, volunteer clinician uh, person. So my airfare, my meals, and my lodging was paid for, which was wonderful because it was just,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I loved it. And then I was part of Jill Starr's Lifesavers. She was doing a lot of boot camps out there in California and in Lancaster, and I did them. And then I was up in Maine and I was in Texas, and I just traveled for like 5 years. I worked a job and had children in a house. So
Yeah.
I took about 2 to 3 vacations was all my horse stuff every year. And I would go for a week, 5 days, 7 days, depending on the workshops. So it was amazing learning from some of the best and
Yeah.
learning what you don't want to. So there was a mixture of people, that attended these workshops, and they would try different people for being, clinicians and stuff like that. But the emphasis on this workshop was genitling clinic, not wild horse busting, not breaking horses, not, And so we had 5 days with the people to work with them with cane polling from John Sharp out of Oregon, which was amazing. I still use cane polling. I was using it earlier today. A guy named Mike Horgan worked in the prison program back when I think it was back in Reno. There was one, and he could work with a horse in a squeeze. So I still use the squeeze system for these wild horses. I don't have a BLM squeeze. I just have it's called a humane squeeze. It's used out of panels.
Mm.
So I just kept working towards my dream of working with wild horses. And I became a nonprofit in 2007 because I started taking horses in.
Yeah.
2001 was my first official, like somebody messed up a horse and didn't want it. And that was
Mm.
Wyoming. And I took her in, and I actually took her to the Black Hills of South Dakota. I did a road trip and released that particular Mustang, but they just kept coming. And by 2007, I became a nonprofit to help me try to get some funding, for what I was doing.
Right.
I volunteered for the Bureau of Land Management, so I didn't get paid by them, but I was a volunteer compliance officer. I helped them out. I went and picked horses up because there are field offices in Mississippi. In 2012, I was introduced to the International Volunteering Program. And from 2012 to current, I run a international volunteering program that people come and stay at our rescue and learn about wild horses. So my program
Wow.
actually is getting to where I want it. Okay, the funny thing is when I started it in 2012, I really only wanted about 3 people, maybe four
Right.
people, because I
Mm-hmm.
want enough people that we can still go in the pickup truck together.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically 4, 3 in the back and 1 in the passenger seat.
Right.
But the program made me go with 12. Well, I had to
Oh,
buy a little short school bus. I mean, we had
right.
160 people a year. I was just looking at pictures last night. I cannot believe that for 365 days a year, I had people living on site for 1 week, 6 weeks, 3 months, 2 months, whatever. I had so many people in my center. I look at pictures now, there's like 14 of us getting out of the school bus,
Wow.
going to events. So the program really helped create my program because I was able to purchase bigger land and, move into a better size house and property for the people. So it worked out beautifully. Then COVID hit. Okay,
Yeah.
2020, March of 2020. I had 11 people here from all over the world. I had Switzerland, Sweden. I had Web was from France, Italy, Belgium. I had them from all over the world, and they all had to leave. They left within 3 weeks. Some countries
Mm,
said right now. Some countries said maybe. Everybody was trying to feel out the whole COVID thing, and
right.
they left, and they never came back for like 2 years.
Mm,
Okay, we didn't have anybody because the borders were closed. So then
right.
we had to change. I could no longer have a dozen people here. Okay, because see, I had it like dorm bunk bed set up. So I couldn't have a dozen people because I couldn't have people sleeping on top of people anymore. You
Yeah.
had you had to have the 6 foot away from each other and all this other crap. So because yeah. So anyhow,
Yep.
I changed my program to 6 people only. But I haven't had 6 people. I've had 3 people. I've had, I think, 4 people. I have a lady in right now from California, and I have a guy here from England. So, but I love it now. Okay. Yes, I don't have the income, but like today when I started working with the horses, I can just focus on what I'm wanting to do with the
Yeah.
horses. Because it
Yeah.
is hard when you have a program as big as and you think only a dozen people, but when you have a program like that, and the problem with the program was that you had people come in every Monday changing out. So it's
Mm,
really hard because if everybody came and stayed for 6 weeks, that's a lot easier because we can
yeah.
all move along together. But when you keep having people flopping around like that, it's hard to stay to a really great routine with the horses. Because if you're here for 6 weeks and I'm working with you and she's here for 2 weeks, I'm trying to invest more time in you because you're going to be working with that horse. Horses
Mm-hmm.
want relationships. They don't want wild horses,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about. Now, my
Mm-hmm.
tame horses, they don't care. Anybody can brush the tame horses. They love
Yeah.
everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
if you really want a hands-on experience with a wild horse, it's very hard for me to let you come in for 2 weeks and just do whatever
Right.
because it's all about grounding, body language, if you approach too creepy, that seems weird, so you have to be
Mm-hmm.
natural. We had a beautiful young lady from France here last year for 6 weeks. And in the last 3 days of her 6 weeks, she finally could halter this really tough little Mustang named Apache.
Mm-hmm.
And her body language was always being so hesitant or like just moving too slow. The horse was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to touch me? Not touch me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and then by the 3 days before she left, she haltered him every day, morning and night, took him out to the round pen. It was absolutely wonderful because it really
Uh,
was a big thing for her. Because once she felt it, she
yeah.
realized just be natural and go smooth and breathe. Because if you don't breathe, then you're holding your breath and they feel that you're holding your breath. So it's a whole thing to it, working with,
Yeah.
traumaed Mustangs. And a lot of them,
Yeah.
I say trauma because a lot of them we do get in our trauma.
Tell me a little more about that. What are your typical cases? Why are you Mustang rescues are a huge thing. Lots of Mustangs don't end up in good places. What are some of the reasons and how does that play out?
Well, the horses, there again, I mentioned about a tip program that was popular with Mustang Heritage.
Yeah.
And that program came out like the Mustang Heritage started like in '07. And that
Okay.
program followed shortly afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
I would make $750 and I'd have the horse for 3 months and I would have it halter trained, leading, tying, picking up all 4 feet and going in a trailer. Those are the like 5 things required.
Right.
And then a person could adopt the horse for $125, and you got $750 for housing it. And then it went up to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing it by 2018 because what I was seeing, and it was really heartbreaking, was that so many people that got involved in the TIP program just worried about the money. They would flip the horses
Yeah.
in 2 weeks or 1 month. I I'd get people's tip horses in that were so hard to halter. I mean, horrible to halter. Okay, that's really stinks because you got to do that all the time. You need to halter and bridle your horse.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then you have to work through them rearing, or the people that got them were roping them and snubbing them up and trying to halter them. And people do all sorts of stuff to these animals.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is leaving them like that. And then you comes into the
Right.
rescue and he panics. I've got a really tough horse in right now that came from Double Devil Gardens, and he's about 7, and he just took it really hard. I got 3 of them in, but he hates being touched.
Mm.
I mean, it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
It took me forever to get his neck tag off. I'm not giving up on him, but he's a tough case. The other
Yeah.
2 gentled up really so much easier. They did not have the same trauma. And that's because 3 horses right there. All 3 of those horses went through basically the same thing. One was a mare, so she didn't get killed. Okay, but they
Yeah.
got rounded up. They got separated. They got
Mm-hmm.
vaccinated. They got microchipped. They got castrated. And then they got released to be in holding pens, and then they got adopted out. So you can have 3 horses with the same thing. One didn't make a difference. It's fine. It likes people. And that's
Yeah.
Nayeli. She's like, oh, this is all cool. It was no big deal. I love
Hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Aguave. Oh, I don't know if I could trust you. Can I really trust you? I don't know. He's like nervous about stuff, but he gets
Yeah.
over it. You're able to handle him.
Mm-hmm.
And Zuni is scared flat to death,
Yeah.
just scared to death. And it really is sad because, okay, I have a photograph of when he was rounded up,
Mm.
and he was a 5-year-old stallion, and
Mm-hmm.
he had a lowered head. He had a beautiful mane and forelock and a lowered head position. He was relaxed in the eyes. You didn't see no whites above his eyes. You see just beautiful dark eyes.
Yeah.
And then I got him 6 months later from him getting captured through the
Mm-hmm.
process. And he got captured like in August, and I got him March. So,
After he had gone through the TIP program?
nope, he didn't go through a TIP
Oh,
program.
okay.
He was just through the adoption, so he had to be
Okay.
processed. He was in California, and then they hold the adoption, then they ship him out throughout the United States. When he arrived, he looked like a totally different horse.
Hmm.
He had lost weight.
Mm-hmm.
His whole eyes were different. There were like no life in them.
Yeah.
The whites come up real fast. Like if he looks at you, he lifts his eyes so high. Scared to death of everything. He doesn't even like touching with the other horses when I blend
Hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like the 2 he came in with at all. I
Hmm.
cannot even blend him with the 2 that he came in with. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they were from his herd. They were just rounded up at the same time. So
Right.
they might not even be related or even anything to him. Or they could
Right.
be. And for all I know,
Yeah.
that could be siblings that he hates. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what his problem is, but he doesn't like them.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of other stuff. We had a lovely lady come from Germany, Heidi, and she did Linda Tellington Tea Touch wand work. So I've been working with that with him, and then Linda Tellington herself was here, which was such a treat. What a wonderful
Yeah.
lady! 86 years old, still lecturing and teaching.
That's
And
fantastic.
flying
Yeah.
everywhere: Hawaii, Arizona, Germany. An amazing, amazing, amazing lady. She worked on my knee, and my knee is so much better. So yeah,
Wow.
that T touch
Yeah.
works for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we started doing that with him. And then I had a lovely lady come in for a week from Switzerland, and she did chakra clearing and she worked on energy. And so she was with him for a week. And now I have another lady local So we're doing energy work, we're doing T-touch, we're doing wand work. I am trying very hard to help ground him because he acted as if he wasn't even connected with his body.
Yeah.
Like his legs, like the way he would stand, or he would stretch and leave his back legs back there. Like he's
Mm,
not connected. So we've been working on trying to
yeah.
connect him.
And have those things seem to help him?
I do believe so, yeah, because I am touching on him.
Oh,
So,
good.
so
Yeah.
yes, it is helping. It's just been a really tough. Fear
Yeah.
is a hard thing to get rid of.
Yeah.
Aggression is easier to fix than fear.
Hmm.
Because you can reason with somebody that's aggressive. And a horse, you can
Mm-hmm.
help show them that they don't have to go to that. But fear is hard. Because if I tell you not to be afraid of spiders, just because I tell you not to be afraid of spiders, and you're scared to death of spiders, me putting spiders on you isn't going to make you like
No,
them that
not at
much
all.
better.
Yeah. No,
so,
probably less.
so it's a really hard call because, okay, he doesn't like being touched. His mane is such a matted mess.
Mm-hmm.
Today is the first time that I actually combed out a section. And because his mane, I think, was just driving him nuts. It's like everything he could feel. You know, like if you had knots all in your hair, you would feel those knots pulling on your head anytime it moves or stuff. So I started putting cowboy magic. I'm rubbing it in there, and today was the first time able to comb that out. Now he's in a squeeze, which I do not like having to do. But then
Yeah.
again, I'm never going to get there. We are never going to get hands on him unless I start doing hands on him.
Hmm.
So that's why he is in a squeeze. So the squeeze does allow him to maneuver his feet back and forth because the type of squeeze I use. So he is not like, he's not snubbed, he's not made to stay. And he actually does like being rubbed by the neck area when you start scratching him. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard for him to just let that go. But I think we'll make
Hmm.
breakthroughs there.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times those hard ones kind of teach us more and help us figure out a little bit more each time.
Yes. So tell me about your Mustangs.
So I have three. The first one's from Divide Basin. That was my first Mustang that I got.
Okay.
And when I got her, I was a little bit like you. I was not pregnant, but I had six young kids
Oh my
and
goodness.
trudged into the BLM office and thought, oh, they're probably going to tell me no, but
Uh,
you know, I met the requirements. I had the facility. So she came home. She went through the wild horse inmate program and was halter trained there.
okay.
And yeah, did good with that. A really cool program that unfortunately is not going on in Canyon City anymore, I don't think, because I
Mm.
feel like it's such a benefit for both
It
parties.
is. They
Yeah.
did a movie on that. Did you see Wild Horse
Redemption.
Renegade? Redemption, yeah, Wild Horse Redemption.
Yeah.
Great movie. I have our
Yeah.
volunteers watch that movie. I bought it for
Oh
that.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish we would use them more for things like that because we have all
right.
these Mustangs and I think that they help people a lot. They
Hmm.
can help us learn ourselves better and
Absolutely. They still do it in others. I just talked
mhm,
to Hutchinson prison.
yeah.
They're training 5 horses for the Chicago Mounted and some border patrol. So I'm trying to get
Mm,
Orange County, Florida. They're deputies. I work with them with our reading program. Some Mustangs. So I was talking to them
nice.
up at Hutchinson. I just talked to the
Yeah.
bureau today. I've got 2 more numbers. There's one in Arizona, but I think they're
Yeah.
under quarantine right now. And then there's
Mm,
Steve Mantle's ranch, and then there's another one that she gave me, another prison. So I'm going to check into them and see. I know that there's Riverton as well, but I would love to see our deputies getting some Mustangs. The hardest thing
yeah.
is big Mustangs because see, years ago the Mustangs you had a lot of big Mustangs. I
Hmm.
don't know how long have you had your horse?
So my oldest I've had for 8 years.
Okay, so I'm talking 32 years ago
Yeah, no,
with me.
I'm
Okay,
definitely younger
so
than you into the Mustang community.
back in like I don't know early 90s, a friend of mine, Peggy, got 2 Mustangs, 16-1 and 16-2 hands.
Oh,
Huge,
geez. Yeah, really big.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Mustangs. There was many. I have Sir Gallant. He's probably 15.3. I have Oki. He's 15.2. I have Oso at 15.2. These guys are 25, 26 years old. And they're
Mm,
beautiful, nice, big Mustangs. I have Smoochie. She's from Oregon. She's right at 15.3. Big Appaloosa. So here I have these big Mustangs, but you don't see that anymore. I have not seen any lately. So that is what Hutchinson present. I think the best they can do is about 15, 15.2, maybe.
yeah.
15 is about average. So a lot of the mounted police want their horses 15.2 to 16 up, but I think Orange County they'll work with 15, 15.2. So we're trying to
Yeah.
find them something.
Yeah. No, that would be great. I think any programs that can put the horses in a good place are
Yes.
worth pursuing for sure.
I know that the BLM came up with a champion program that's new when they got rid of the TIP program
Oh,
last
really?
year.
I haven't
And
heard
what
of that.
that program is that you take the horse for a year, and that makes a difference. I am
Hmm.
really happy with that. And that's for trainers to compete. And these trainers take this horse for a year, and then you win real money.
Hmm. That is
It's
interesting. I hadn't heard about
so
that.
it's called, I want to say it's the champion program. So look up with the
Yeah.
BLM.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I do
So,
think
but
that would,
they're doing shows just like the Mustang Heritage, Extreme
yeah.
Makeover, but the people have a year to train these horses. And
Mm,
there's better cash prize that
mm-hmm.
the people are winning for it.
Mm, a
And
little
then the
more.
horses, yeah, and the horses still get auctioned off.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's very interesting. I do think that that timeline that's put on them so often ends up to their detriment that we're
Yeah.
just trying these crazy ways to get them to do what we think they should be doing right now.
Right. Yes, I have to agree. I've been to the Extreme Makeovers since '07. I was in it in '09. I've had
Mm-hmm.
two of my Swedish girls place in the top 10 in
Oh,
it,
wow.
but there's a lot that I see there that I just feel bad for some of the horses
Yeah.
because not all those horses that go through the Extreme Makeover are okay, and they're
Yeah.
going to be tough if they bounce around,
Yeah.
you
Well, and I
know.
think, like you said, there's the personality is so varied. One can
Yeah.
experience the exact same thing and take it a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I know for me, seeing that having a Mustang, it got me really discouraged because my first mare wasn't super quick. She was very nervous outside the corral. Totally calm and great inside the corral, but you took her out and she'd just explode every time. And so it was a process for me, but it was hard to get out of my head about, all these people are doing riding their horses on the trails in 10 days and I can't even walk mine outside the corral.
Yeah. But there again, it goes with her personality and her genitling.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
she felt she felt good in a contained area. So that tells
Yeah.
you that that prisoner probably did a really nice job with her in a contained
Yeah.
area, but she never got out of there. And so going out
Right.
there, all of a sudden you got freedom, number one, because you're out of the enclosure. And
Hmm.
then there's so much coming at them. The
Yeah.
wind, the things, this, that. But I find Mustangs incredibly sound-minded. I'll take my Mustangs any day and ride them. I mean,
Yeah.
anywhere. My horses will go through obstacle courses, through water. I mean, they are through parades, through whatever. So I have
Yeah.
some really nice older Mustangs that I've had for many, many years. I'm not doing too good with these next 25-year ones. That's what I got, the three Devil Gardens. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all my horses are 20, 22, 25, 26. So
Mm.
those are some of my horses I've had for a long time.
Yeah.
And now my horses, are getting seniors. And I'm
Yeah.
62 and I still plan riding into my 80s. So I
Yeah.
better get me a horse
You need a
now
couple more horses.
that
Yep.
that they'll be 25 when I'm 80. So we'll be good together.
Right. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to place the three I got, and I think I'm going to start looking at the prison saddle trained horses and get
Yeah.
something from there because I mean, I've had two prison horses. We
Hmm.
placed one because unfortunately it had ring bone, which we did
Mm.
not know until we x-rayed
Hmm.
it. So that
Mm.
really stunk. But the other one is still here, and he's a good guy. He had a nice gentle. He's just really short.
Yeah.
He's 14 hands at that. But
Mm. Yeah.
um,
And so how many Mustangs do you have at the rescue part?
I have
Is it primarily Mustangs?
well, I have 55 horses here, and 45 are Mustangs. So yes,
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
primarily Mustangs.
Mm-hmm.
I have just a few other breeds. And we are constantly, people are wanting us to take in stuff. It's really sad out there. I mean, like I took in the dogs, I
Yeah.
take in horses and ponies. I have to be careful how much I take in because I have to take care of it.
Right.
And it is tough to take in stuff that you can't adopt out because I'm not a sanctuary. I have 42 acres. So I can't
Mm.
just take in 100 horses and feed everybody and just keep them.
Yeah.
I have to hope that I can rehabilitate, give them a hand up, and get them a home.
Yeah. And
But
have you been able to do that with the majority of them?
yeah, with the majority, we adopt out about 34, 36 horses a year.
Oh,
I mean
wow.
that's not very many, but
I mean, that's a good bit of horses that needed a little bit better
hmm
foundation.
yeah. And then we have horses that are sanctuary. So currently, right now, out of 45 horses, I have 20 available adoptions, and I probably have
Mm.
another 15 seniors. Like people
Yeah.
are not going to adopt. I have three out there that are 32 years old. Okay, they're not
Mm.
going anywhere.
Yeah.
I've got another four that are 25 and 26 and 27. So they're not going anywhere. So it makes it tough because even my four that are my seniors, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of them. I've had them most of their life. Those are my
Yeah.
horses. So
Yeah.
they'll live their days out here. So we have quite a few seniors at the ranch. And
Yeah.
I did place a senior. He wasn't mine. He came in as a 22-year-old. I did
Mm-hmm.
place that with a church therapy program so
Oh.
that he can help with kids brushing and being all around them. He's super, super gentle. That was actually a quarter horse. So
Yeah.
every now and then I do have seniors get placed,
Yeah.
but most people that are looking for a companion are going to adopt a donkey or a miniature horse. They don't want a full grown horse.
Mm. Yeah.
Which
Something a little
actually they
easier.
should, because guess
Yeah.
what? Horses like horses. I know people
Right.
think they can put the horse with the donkey or the mini and they'll be fine, but they can't groom with them. We had a Frisian come in, he was 25 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
he had been on the Hunger Games. He had been a carriage horse. He
Oh,
had a
wow.
magnificent life. And when his owner died, she had zero, zero plans for her animals.
Mm.
She had two sisters that didn't like each other and didn't like her. She's
Mm.
lucky the one sister was compassionate about animals because she had cats, she had a Frisian, and she had three minis. The other
Mm.
sister said, "Who cares? Let them go to slaughter." And the other
Yeah.
sister said, "Well, let me try to find a rescue." She called 10 rescues, and nobody wanted a 25-year-old horse. Now, the
Mm.
minis, I was surprised that they didn't take the minis because minis are easy to place.
Yeah.
So we ended up bringing them in. And when he got here and he saw the Mustangs, I think he thought that was pretty cool, first off, because he's like, "Oh, I've heard of those Western ponies,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they were to him, ponies." He was so big
Mm-hmm.
and magnificent. And he would get
Yeah.
out there and he would just groom and groom with them. So I think he missed grooming because there was no grooming with the ponies. I mean, they
Yeah.
were they were minis.
Right.
Okay.
Very
And
small.
yes. So he ended up getting adopted into a Frisian barn, a
Oh, yeah.
private owned one. They had six Frisians there. And when we brought him and he saw that other Frisians, we've got magnificent pictures. The light in his eyes, his soul lit up again. So he had been a high end horse, living the high
Yeah.
end life up until
Yeah.
he was 16 after the Hunger Games, and then he got sold and retired to a lady that was a quadriplegic, and she still used him with a carriage, but the other one had died
Hmm.
many years prior. So that
Mm-hmm.
Frisian was there with just the minis.
Yeah.
And so we were happy to give him back his life.
Yeah.
Uh, and we get beautiful photos of him grooming, running, being with another gelding that he's with.
Yeah,
So
that's a happy ending, huh?
it is a happy ending. That's what we like. We tried
Yeah,
very hard to find the right homes for the animals
yeah.
because a lot of people wanted him because he was a celebrity, and it's not, he needed to be somewhere, one, that somebody can afford that kind of horse
Mm-hmm.
because he is a big horse. I took him and got him acupuncture. The acupuncture is also homeopaths and stuff. And she said, he is just brokenhearted, man. He is just broken heart. He's
Mm,
just missing something. There's just, and you could see it. His eyes were like just no life. And some life came when he seen the horses here, but his eyes, they lit up like
mm,
stars. So
mm-hmm.
so we do have a lot of happy endings for our animals. We get good homes for the dogs. We are an adoption center, so what that means is that you actually have to qualify to adopt. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but we get people sometimes that want something because it's pretty.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
they don't have the ability to work with a uh, started gentled up horse or a horse that still has some pretty strong issues with humans and fear. You can't you can't give it to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And
Right.
what I mean by just the simplest thing, leading or holding the horse. Okay, when we lead or hold our horses, we have a little float in the rope. It's not like straight lined.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not leading him and my rope is like straight lines, and I'm holding him up by his face. I'm
Yeah.
going to have a little float in the rope and he's going to come off that pressure and come with me. And I'll see right off if I work with people and you see in them grabbing up and snatching and hanging on, there's no way I can adopt a sensitive horse to you. There's just no
Yeah.
way because that horse is not going to take that constant pressure.
Right.
I mean, your Mustangs can be so light, so you don't
Yeah.
have to put, I mean, ounces on what you're doing. Like
Absolutely.
even Zuni right now, because he's got a halter and a drag, I'm working with him to giving to the feel. So if I ask him to move to the right or the left, I'm going to angle it a little bit, take the tension, ask and wait on him. And he has to do something
Yeah.
because it feels a little awkward to them.
Yeah.
And I'll angle it, and he's giving so nicely. Now, when I just lift and ask, he gives. So
Yeah.
even with a horse that is as difficult as he is, you start by baby steps like that, rearing and running and fire and smoke. And I mean, there's going to come when he does get excited, I have to work through it. Earlier today, he was so nervous. I had him doing figure eights
Yeah.
in the paddock area. So I had him going to the right, going to the left, going to the right, going to the left. Just get some of that energy out
Yeah.
and let it go
What were some of
because
the things that led you to approach horses that way versus some of the more traditional ways that are
like
a
just
little,
like round penning or
yeah, just round penning or maybe saying like, this is what, I want to do. So this is what we're going to do regardless of how you're feeling.
well, I do stuff like that. It depends on the horse. I mean, if I
Yeah.
work a horse in the round pen and he's going around to the left and he darts to go back the other way, no, 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 we're still going in the direction I
Yeah.
asked. So no, I'm still gonna send. Now, that horse got nervous about some simple stuff and we were fixing to feed and hay and, walking through the alleyway and he was just a nervous wreck. So then I sent him back and forth. Go ahead, move around some and then settle down and look. And it does help get the energy out because if when he gets nervous, we, retreat or stop doing, that helps him
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh, wow, if I act really afraid, they just leave me
Yeah.
alone. So I didn't want him to think that when I get nervous, we get nervous too. So I said, no, go ahead, go to the right, go to the left. So now you're directing his feet. That's also another thing. Whoever directs the feet has control. I mean, even in the herds, if a horse goes at a horse, he moves their feet. I mean, of course, their body follows, but what
Mm-hmm.
moves is the feet. So it's the same thing working with the horses. I focus more on how the feet are, where I'm moving them. Like we have a pony, we have two of them, miniature horses. They're 18 and 15. They are flat scared to death. They were used as breeders and
Mm-hmm.
not handled. So they were
Mm-hmm.
out in the field just having babies for years.
Yeah.
And then the people got old, they got rid of everything, and they had two minis left they didn't want. So they came here. So when I worked with the little one, Crystal, she used to she always just wants to leave. So now when I work with her and I bring her over near me, it doesn't have to be next to me, but in my presence, and I will make sure that if she goes to leave with her feet, I'll just put her feet back and just relax with her. She can stand here next to me without me asking anything.
Yeah.
And it is helping her to not want to leave and flee every minute. So you have to
Yeah.
break the leave and flee at some point. That doesn't mean snubbing them up and making them take it. That means helping them to know that they don't have to feel like they have to leave. Because your energy inside, too, you need to keep it nice and quiet for them. If you're petting them, do stuff they like. If you notice the horse is not enjoying the way you're touching it, stop doing it. Okay, do something else. Because you should be
Yeah.
trying to get that horse to enjoy the touch. So if you find a sweet spot on him, that's always great. An itchy spot in the withers or in the chest or under the mane. Like on Zuni, I found that he likes around his throat latch area, itched, and he likes under the mane itched. Well,
Mm.
then I'll
Yeah.
use that as,
Got-
give him something that he likes a little bit.
Yeah. Some reward for being with you.
Yep. And then I have to work with, have either like a carrot stick or a lunge whip where and I work that over his poll and ears. I know that they're microchipped, and I don't know if that's what is his problem or if his mane is bothering him or what, but he is so pole
Hmm.
shy, horribly pole shy. So we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to work on that. And by touching it with an object that I'm not my hand, you can get away with a lot more touching of like the cane pole or the line off of the carrot stick because the hand has energy. Those items don't have energy. And so they'll accept that touch. And then even when I'm cane poling, I'll come up the pole and then start rubbing the horse.
Yeah.
So I do use traditional methods. I mean, we have two round pens. We have a 40 and a
Yeah.
60. But I also use gentling methods on stuff that needs repetition. I think of them like, they're in kindergarten. They're coloring with crayons, for God's sakes. Don't overdo them because sometimes you can flood them too much and then they can't retain any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have good tips for people to be able to identify like maybe now is the time to push a little bit and
Yes,
versus now you need to back off a little bit
right.
and they
Yep,
need to start feeling safe?
absolutely. And that's
What kind
what,
of tips do you have for people
well, I mean,
to recognize that?
you're reading the horse. I mean, you're going to
Yeah.
read, okay, the head posture, the gut could be sucked up, the nose, he's not breathing, he's holding his breath. You have to get out of their space for them to drop their head and lick and chew. So you can't stay there indefinite. That's where approach and
Mm-hmm.
review and give them so that they can exhale. So you
Yeah.
need to pay attention to how they're handling what you're doing to them.
Yeah. And a
So
lot of the, sorry, go ahead.
So anyhow, so you need to look at the whole body. You need to look at the eyes. Yes, I do look at the eyes. You need to see, are they drawn up underneath? Are they quivering?
Yeah.
The chest tells you a lot. The chest incaved, one side's up, the other side isn't up. When they suck in their chest, their heart
Mm-hmm.
chakra is really damaged. Like, they just have a lot of fear.
Right.
So, you want to help them with that. That's where the wand, the Linda Tellington. So say on the horse, I go from his throat latch under his neck, down his chest, down his right leg, and tap the hoof. I go down the left leg from the chest and do it again. And you help connect them and you help just connect his body because
Yeah.
they don't mind being touched with objects as much as they do your hand.
Hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But you do have to look at the whole horse. You need to see what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to push through things, and that's where knowledge comes in. So, and that's where a lot of people get in trouble because say they're watching a video or reading a procedure and they don't know what to do when it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah. If it doesn't
Okay,
follow the textbook, yeah.
right. If it's not following that, well, there's a fine line. Hesitation is not your friend. So if you hesitate too long when you're doing something, generally the horse is going to make the decision for you. So you need to be smooth with your decisions and let them flow. I liken it to Dancing with Stars. Okay, the first meeting night for Dancing with Stars, they're pretty clumsy. They don't know each other. They don't really connect too
Mm-hmm.
well. But by the end of the series, they are flowing with each other. So when you
Yeah.
work with horses, you have to flow in the sense of you can't be animated, you can't be holding your breath, you can't be too direct. You know, if you're square shoulder and you're upright and you're too strong at them, that too. So a lot of times I take my energy off of them. I'm not constantly watching them like a predator because that's what we are. You got
Mm-hmm.
to take that energy off of them as well. Your solar plex, your, I mean, that's why people shake hands. I mean, we could
Yeah.
shake hands, my right hand to your left hand. I mean, we could have learned how to shake like that, but
You're right.
we shake cross each other because we take our shoulders off of each other. So it's a
Yeah.
way
Hmm.
to not confrontation.
Yeah. I like that analogy of a dance, and I think that's one of the reasons why having time is so important.
Yes, you
You know,
shouldn't.
not feeling panicked to accomplish
Well,
something.
and this is also a big problem that we have, and I really do wish that the prisons would get more involved because those people,
Yeah.
it helps them and it helps the horses. Because so many trainers out there. Okay, trainers want to make money and they
Yeah.
overbook their horses, and a lot of trainers are not very good with Mustangs because people that are paying for training, say you're paying $1,000 a month and you have a riding horse and you're just critiquing it. Okay, you're a show horse and he just
Mm-hmm.
needs some 3 months of, some work. I
Yeah.
have a Mustang that is really green, really afraid, and now we want that trainer to get results. Okay,
Yeah.
he is not going to. They should have, I mean, trainers should be fair if they should say, look, I'm taking it for 6 months. Your first 3 months is this price, and your next 3 months are that price. Because then that person could spend the time needed. Because
Yeah.
you can't you're not going to spend 45 minutes or an hour and a half or 2 hours with that horse. You might spend 15 minutes and then later that day come back for 15 minutes. So for the first 2 weeks, you might put 30 minutes a day in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just to get a basics down because
Right.
not all horses move along. I'll take an inch and I'll go a mile. If I can go as far as I can go with it, I'll go with whatever you're doing. But if it's not going, do not push it to that.
Yeah.
Back off, reconnect where you're doing good, and then do that, and then you can build on that.
Yeah. Yeah, those expectations aren't really fair to the horse or the trainers. I know trainers feel
Yeah.
equal pressure because that's kind of the expectation out there, but the
Yes. And
reality is just that not all horses learn at the same rate, have the same
nope,
experience.
nope, not at all. And it's really hard to rehab Mustangs that have been done in a way that fear sets in.
Mm,
It's almost unreversible. I mean, I've taken many horses to sanctuaries just to
yeah.
give them their freedom back. I mean, you see sanctuaries all over United States. I would love to have a sanctuary. I'm taking four
Yeah.
of my Mustangs tomorrow to a wonderful family get a hold of me. Matter of fact, the grandmother took a cranial sacral clinic back in 2001 called Nonverbal Communication Through the Field of Mustangs. We had
Mm-hmm.
Up Ledgers Institute, Ramona Sierra, and them do this clinic, and it was life changing. It really was. It was an amazing clinic. And I took that
Hmm.
little horse and I took her to Wyoming, to the Black Hills in South Dakota. She was from Wyoming. So I took her back to being a wild Mustang. But
Yeah.
Georgia, the lady that came to that clinic, told her grandsons about me. And they have a beautiful wedding venue. And they have
Yeah.
about 20, 25 acres of wooden pasture land, around the wedding venue.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked if I had some Mustangs I could put out there. They would love to just have them out there in the fields. So
Yeah.
I took 4 2 weeks ago, and I'm taking 4 more. So I have 8 of my horses get to have their freedom. Now, these horses are anywhere from age 15 to 22.
Yeah.
So these horses get to have just, a pasture. They get hay out there. Nobody's going to mess with them. We just got everybody updated on shots and Coggins, so they're good for a year. They don't do their feet. We don't do their feet as long as they're turned out on enough land.
Yeah. That's nice. It's nice to see that there's lots of good ways for them to land if they don't
Right.
mesh well with our human world.
Yes, but there's not enough places like that.
Yeah.
And that's why the slaughter pipeline is so full of
Um,
Mustangs.
do you
Okay.
end up getting many rescues from there? How do most of your
I
rescues come in?
I don't want to take any more from there. No offense.
Yeah.
I took in 3 young horses August, sorry. They came in August. By September, I was shut down with strangles. They came in contaminated. And
Yeah.
they went to quarantine out there, and they did not get quarantined. They were sick when they arrived, and I told the lady that you just sent me sick horses. Oh, yeah, but they're okay. The vet said they're okay. I had my vet out. He said, oh, there's no fever. They just got a little snotty nose. They don't feel good. They were strangles. I was shut down for 5 months. 5 months.
Mm.
I had 7,500 in veterinarian bills. I had 20 horses get it. I
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
send out any adoptions. I had no adoptions. I only had
No.
a very few intakes. I couldn't take stuff in. I couldn't do our open house. I couldn't do our Halloween, our Thanksgiving, and our Christmas. I couldn't do any events. I couldn't have people
Mm.
come on the property.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the kill pens, what I try to do is stop horses before they go. So I'm more owner surrender. So if
Yeah.
we can keep the horses somewhere, like I have a 12-year-old Mustang coming in, maybe Friday. If I can keep the horses from going into slaughter. Now, I looked at a 18-year-old Mustang, but I really tried to talk the lady into investing a little bit more time and working with it, because they've had it there for a couple of years. It was a boarder,
Yeah.
and then the boarder doesn't want the horse. But the horse is
Mm.
18, and it does have a lot of issues. Well, it's hard for me to rehabilitate an 18-year-old
Yeah.
to let somebody adopt out.
Right.
The 12-year-old, they're already handling them, doing some stuff with them, so maybe we can just get him a little better about it, and then he can get adopted out. He's still young enough. But once they start hitting that 15, 16 mark, no, people don't want
Yeah.
to saddle train a 15, 16-year-old horse.
Yeah. It is. It is a lot of effort to,
Yeah, it
it
is. I
feels
mean,
like
it's also
not
a lot of
enough
work
time.
on them,
Yeah.
I mean, real saddle training, you're going to do round pen work, you're going to have walk, trot, canter, you're going to be rollbacks, you're going to be side passing, you're going to do a lot when you finish training that horse.
Yeah.
That, an older horse just like me, if you ran me around in the round pen, I'd be limping like in 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be a good candidate to be made into some like laborer. I mean, if they came here and wanted me, they're going, okay, just let her cook, man. Just let her stand there.
Yeah.
Because, so it's the same thing with older horses. They're going to break down easier. So, your younger horses are better for that. So those
Yeah.
horses were 3 that came, they were 2-year-olds. They're 3-year-olds now. And all 3 of them were supposedly tip trained. All 3 of them acted like nothing but fear.
Hmm.
Like the little bay one wanted to turn his butt to you. He never offered a kick, but he had learned to block you by turning his butt.
Yeah.
Really afraid in the eye. The other one was frantic, back and forth all over the place, not wanting to face up to you. And then the third one was so sick. Even from the day he got there, he didn't care. Touch me or don't touch me, I don't care. Because I just want to
Hmm.
die. So.
Yeah.
But they're all
What are
really
some?
nice horses now, by the way.
Yeah.
They get their
Well, that's
feet
awesome.
done. You
That's
can brush them,
amazing.
halter
Yeah.
them. They're super friendly. We have one being looked at by human trafficking rescue for women,
Oh,
10
yeah.
to 30 years old, and they're looking for a horse to add to their program.
For
So I
like
think,
therapy.
yep, and I think Kohana would be the horse forum. So they're coming out
Yeah.
on Sunday to spend some time.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really neat that they're able to come in and have a better life. What are some things you think could be done so that, these horses obviously have potential.
Mhm.
They don't need to end up, neglected, alone, in need of rescue.
Right.
Is there anything
I
you think
think,
that,
oh, absolutely. There needs to be more training programs. The Bureau of Land Management needs to put that money in a better way than what they're doing by
yeah,
rounding up, and putting them on, they're on long-term or
mhm,
short-term, you know, facilities. They're just doing such massive roundup. What they need to do is study the species. There's plenty of species people out there that know how wild horses are supposed to be. Stop,
yeah,
stop messing up the herds. Let the older stallions have their older mares because they're not going to breed as much. Just leave your older ones out. Focus on
yeah,
taking anything under the age of 10. And even when you take the babies, you do realize that mare's going to have another baby because you just took her baby.
yeah,
Maybe don't take the babies so much because
yeah,
you're increasing breeding. If you went into any species of animals and you took their babies, okay, like a male lion kills that male lion and he has a female lion, she has his baby. He kills that baby so he can breed her again and have his because they're going to want to
hmm,
have their offspring.
yeah, that's interesting. If
So
if that might not be perpetuating the problem that they're
it
trying to
is. I'm going to say it
mitigate.
is. Yes. And
Yeah,
they've been taking the older off the range. It was absolutely heartbreaking. About 3 months ago, I had a lady contact me about two 21-year-old horses she got when they were 19. They were rounded up at 19, gilded.
geez,
Okay, she has the photographs of them out in the wild. They look magnificent. Okay, they look happy. Their eyes, their body, their weight, everything, their muscle. And then you
yeah,
see them in the BLM when they got adopted. They were loss of muscle. They were skinny. Their eyes were nothing. They were dull out. And then in the photos she sent me when she's been working with them, they're very stressed. They're not okay. So actually, they're going to Wyoming to a 40-acre rescue. She knows somebody out there.
mm,
So that was good.
yeah,
I was glad that
yeah,
they're going somewhere.
yeah,
So taking those old horses like that is really unfair. So they really need to change. If they want to take stuff under the age of 10, they shouldn't do such massive roundups. They need to talk to the people that are the photographers, the specialists, the people, the advocates that are for wild horses. They need to speak to them and find out about these herds and manage the herds slower. Temple Grandin did a wonderful article in Western Horseman 2001 article on Roundup at Rock
mm-hmm,
Springs, Wyoming. She
mm-hmm,
observed them rounding up the horses and she took notes. And when the horses came in, they came in at a full gallop and they had X amount of run into the fence, fall overs, rear ups, half rears, kicks, head gates, into the gates. They had all those categories, right? Then she waited 2 weeks. She had an independent contractor with a helicopter, and they brought their horses in at a walk, maybe a
hmm,
jog. And those horses had zero, zero, zero. They had like one half rear.
mm,
They had no running into the gates. They had no falling overs. They had no rearing up. They had no fighting when they got into there. So
yeah,
see, that's in 2001. There is information out there. These, they need to slow down and they need to treat these animals with respect and handle them a little bit differently because the wild
yeah,
horse is super curious. But we're not getting wild horses like we used to. 6 weeks off that range, that horse is curious. But what happens to them when they're long term and sitting in these facilities for any length of time is they lose their interest and they're depressed and they also just go within. They're
yeah,
not curious anymore. They're just afraid.
yeah. Do you have a horse that's come in that's kind of changed your life or touched your life?
I do. A horse named Wyoming. I told you I took her to the Black Hills in 2001.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Okay, when I touched that horse, okay, first off, I was mentoring, trying to help a guy with her, and I knew he was lying, and because the horses was telling me body language, what he was saying and
Yeah.
what he wasn't. So when the horse got to come to my rescue, I didn't have a rescue then, came to my place.
Yeah.
His wife then told me really what was going on. And when I touched that horse, I could feel, I don't know, I could feel the fear. I mean, I've never worked with an animal like that. And we did a clinic with Ramona, and then I
Mhm.
had an animal communicator, and I ended up taking that horse all the way to the Black Hills to let her go free. I had
Yeah.
never, ever felt what I felt from that mare. And she lived out there to like 22 years old. I have a photograph of her in the Snake River at the Black Hills, and
Mm.
she looks amazing. And she had
Yeah.
several foals. She lived her life as a wild horse. And I've been there
Yeah.
5 times. There's about 12 horses out there at the Black Hills through my center. But
Mhm.
Wyoming was the most heartfelt and pathway for the others. And I wrote a
Yeah.
story about her. I have a wonderful story about Wyoming.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
How neat to have such a good ending for her.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if there's someone that has maybe a Mustang or just any other horse that they're kind of struggling with, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would give them advice. I do like Buck Brannaman if you're going to do any natural horseman person. But I
Mhm.
also like look into Linda Tellington, look into some other stuff. I'm not big on clicker, so I'm not a fan of clicker training, and I'm not a fan of liberty training at first. I think once you get the horse gentled up, then you can do those other two things once the horse
Yeah.
is gentled. So you would want there's a Barbara Eustace Cross puts out a Mustang book. It's back from the 90s, I think 93. That's a great book. It still a good hands-on technique book, and it's called the Mustang Manual. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've ever
Yeah, I
seen
haven't
that.
heard of that
Yeah,
one.
the
I
Barbara
haven't heard of
Eustace
it.
Cross. It's a great book.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree. Definitely get more information. Keep learning if it's a struggle, you know.
Yep.
There are a lot of good people out there that have done a lot of good work with
Yep. And I mean,
Mustangs.
hard habits are hard to break. I had a 13-year-old Mustang come in that had gotten used to if she pulled, the owner just let go. So she was used to just leaving all the time.
Yeah.
So I work with a longer rope. So my rope is the rope I have is 14 foot. I
Mhm.
call it a tree line because it's like repelling rope. It's and it's hooked
Yeah.
to a rope halter, and so I can, if that horse wants to leave, I will go with her to give her some slack, and then I'll recoup her. I'm
Mm.
not going to pull you. I'm not going the other way, and you're going the other way. No, because I can go with you for a few feet, and I can retract you
Yeah.
instead of, so you're going to have to, I mean, that's physical because when she wants to leave, she wants to leave. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just going to leave. No, like I'm like, wow, I'm going. And you have to be ready for that. So if I go with her and then I retract and break her over so that her hind end disengages, but not getting behind the shoulder. If you get too far behind the shoulder, you can't break them over. So
Yeah.
you have to be like a 45 from them. So
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to where you're at. And see, those are
Mhm.
just little things that people go, "Oh, well, I watched the video," but they didn't understand a lot of it.
Yeah.
And that's where
Yeah.
watching videos or reading stuff, it's you have to stop the problem in a way that's effective. And, wild horses don't drag people. They learn. If you want to teach them to drag you, yeah, anybody can
Yeah.
learn that. But
Yeah.
I have never, ever taught a horse to drag me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mustangs are really good at teaching humans.
Well, it was very nice chatting with you. Thank you
Yes,
for
very
having
nice
me on.
chatting with you too, and we'll include links and everything in the
Okay.
podcast description, but
Send me,
I think
because,
the work is great that you're doing, helping more Mustangs find a soft place to land, whether it's in homes or in sanctuaries or
yep.
wherever might be the place for them. So
And like
keep up the good
yep.
work.
And you can come to our center and stay, and we're becoming more like a retreat. So
Oh, cool.
we have
Yeah.
international, but we're really wanting more of that retreat. Come here, melt with some of these Mustangs, help if you can.
Yeah.
Hey, if you have the ability, come for a week and help. Show me some of your techniques. I would love it. I'm open
Yeah.
to always learning and trying different stuff. I love the
Yeah.
Linda Tellington stuff. I knew of it and I used it, but now I'm using it even in a different way, and I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's neat to
Sometimes,
see how it
yeah, sometimes you just
evolves.
need that right person that shows you it in a way that somebody else didn't show you it quite that.
Thank you for joining us in learning about horses that heal and the humans who help them. We hope you'll continue with us on this journey. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite platform and follow The Touch of a Mustang on any of the major social media outlets. Please share with your friends, anyone who loves horses, or anyone who might be struggling and could benefit from this message. If you have felt the healing power of horses or help them in their divinely appointed mission, please reach out. We want to hear your story. As we say goodbye, always remember that the horse is always there to help you heal.